Hey, good morning. Welcome to the Stokastic.com NBA strategy show. Right on time. Dave Loughran, Josh Engleman, 6-game slate. I don't know if you've seen it, man, but like almost every day this week is 6, 7 games. I think there's 1 9, but it's
Yeah.
mostly that like 6, 7 game wheelhouse type thing. It's kind of nice. Today you got the 7 to 8 o'clock starts again.
And I don't expect that 9 to be 9 that day either.
You
I
know, it'll
think
be
they'll
the
drop that 10
7.
o'clock. No,
Yeah.
I think it'll be 8. I think they'll drop the 10.
Oh, I thought they
At least
had
I
two
hope.
tens. Maybe not.
I don't know.
Unimportant. But yeah, I mean it's pretty
Very.
good stuff. Like today, again, 7 to 8. You can walk away after 8 o'clock. It's not
Yeah.
bad.
There are two tens. So yeah, I think that'll end up being 7.
Yeah.
I hope.
I mean, also the good thing though about having a late swap tool is like there's a lot less thought that you have to put into it. Even if something drops at 9:40, like I just have my laptop. Sometimes I'll be in bed. I just had the laptop sitting next to me.
Yeah. I mean,
Like,
it's so easy to late swap now. I don't know why you wouldn't want to do it.
yeah. Like it takes no time whatsoever. And yeah,
No.
okay. You don't do you have to be awake? Yeah, fine. You got to be awake. But aside from just being awake in and of itself, it's all you're doing is uploading your lineups and clicking the 3 buttons, and it's optimizing the top simmed ROI
Yeah.
lineups
It's
and
not
export.
like the ramp up to 7 o'clock for regular luck. It
Right.
is a very much condensed process that is significantly simpler to manage. That's why it should be done without question if
Anyway,
you're using our tools.
How did Liverpool do?
Not great, man. They looked like shit. It was bad.
No.
Yeah. We didn't look good for most of the first half, and we stole a goal just before halftime. And it was like, all right, that's gonna like wake up and get this bullshit going in the second half. And we came out of the second half with like good 10, 15 minutes of like attacking. We were looking good.
And then
And
fell
then
flat again.
the best center back goalie combo on the planet had a miscommunication trying to play a ball, and you could have scored the goal for Arsenal when they bumped, like they kind of like were running towards each other to converge on a ball, and they kind of like pseudo ran into each other, avoided each other, and the ball was just left laying for one of Arsenal's dudes. They
So what
scored
was the
there, and that
final?
buried us. It ended up being 3-1. We got a guy sent off late for his second yellow card, which was horseshit, but it wouldn't have mattered. We were not grabbing that goal back.
Do those type of losses impact your mood?
Yes and no. Like
Did
when
they
push
used
comes,
to?
no, yes, yes and no. See, like for this one yesterday, we were on the road playing the number 3 team in the league. Like you don't win those games all the time. Like we didn't look good. I didn't feel like no part of that match did I think like we deserve a victory here. So I didn't leave thinking it was like a sour taste in my mouth for that.
Sure. You
So
know, it's funny.
I didn't think we lost out on something we deserved.
There was the Bills Chiefs game, right? Conference what was that? Divisional round? Yeah, divisional round.
I know which one you mean.
Well, yeah, the championship was Bills Ravens. Anyway,
Yeah.
uh somebody Greg had tweeted a video of a Bills fan, and several Bills fans in attendance that day, grown men, like visibly crying over the loss, and was like, I don't understand. Greg said this. He's like, I don't understand how anybody could be this upset to the point of tears over a game. And a couple of people tagged me and they're like, Laffy, tell him. And I was like, no, I don't understand how anybody could be that visibly upset. I think there's this assumption of me, right? And anybody that has like, legitimate fandom, because I love getting together with the boys and the family and watching games. It's fun. Like you go to the bar and right. I
Yes.
love that. What's up?
We'll get to it in a second. It's in chat. You're
Okay.
good.
I'll get there. Anyway, I love doing that stuff, but I'm 36 years old. I'll be 37 in less than a month. I don't take that stuff with me anymore. I don't believe I've ever cried because of a loss. Have there been times like the Kawhi Leonard triple bounce in game 7? Like, oh yes, that sucked. But I still woke up the next morning and went about my business. And when I said this to some of these people, they were like, wait, really? I thought you were like, they were shocked that
I'm more likely to cry for a win.
I called a buddy of mine when I remember I told I was a counselor to drug and alcohol, like juveniles, 14 to 18, inpatient, residential facility for like 7 years. And I worked with a guy named Jose Garcia, and he was the man, right? Like, so I started working there at 21. He was already 50 something, but we became just phenomenal friends. And this guy would always tell me he's from West Philly. You know, the type of guy, like just, and he's like, listen, man, he's like, Dave, all I want before I die is an Eagles Super Bowl. So when they won in 2018, mind you, I was a bit tuned up. The first thing I did before I did anything else was I stepped outside and I called him. I was like, you got it, man. And if there's something that could make me emotional, it is that, for him being like, we got it, Dave, we got it, And like, that's the type of thing to me where you're right. It's almost like more pure ecstatic emotions than I'm not going to cry into my hands as much as I like these teams. And as much as I tilt on Twitter, it's more fun than anything else, just blowing steam off. But yeah, I'm not sure I could ever get to the point where I'm visibly crying because of a loss.
I cried during a highlight montage when my coach retired. Jurgen Klopp was leaving Liverpool at the end of the year, and he announced that last week. I cried watching his highlights at my desk, like at like 7 o'clock in the morning when it happened.
A little tearing up a bit.
Last week. Yeah, it was rough, man. He's awesome. He's awesome. He's the coolest manager and coach that exists in sports.
What was the comment?
Travis said Josh cried when his coach got fired. I was just like, well, he didn't get fired. He's stepping down.
I will say though, could be Travis said, I cried. Where was that?
I cry in the car listening to music on Friday for no reason at all.
Dude, I've done that more times than you can imagine.
Yeah.
Like the only thing that can truly, I think, other than, my daughter, make me emotional is music. Music can, if I'm in a certain, like, good or bad, usually good, actually, usually good. Music can bring out some insane emotions in me, dude. Insane.
I cry at TV and movies all the time. All the time.
Saw that Naked Attraction and started to tear up a little bit.
We made someone watch it yesterday.
Oh, dude. What was the last movie? We'll get into the games right now. Don't worry, only 6 games. What was the last show or movie that you can remember tearing up at or crying?
It's so frequent that I have whatever
Really?
I watched last, probably. Yeah.
The first time I watched Lone Survivor, dude, that got me.
Never saw it.
Oh my God. I don't know why Jordan
was he not the lone survivor, or was he?
He was, but everybody else died. Like
they kind of let you know that was going to happen in the title, though.
But well, first of all, true story. Second of all, the way they did it, anyone that's seen this knows what I'm talking about. It was the first time I saw this, like, oh my God.
I cried during 2/3 of the final season of How I Met Your Mother.
Well, that's just
basically every episode.
I also can't watch stuff where they kill animals like dogs and stuff. That's what gets me.
No, I will turn that. I just won't continue watching that.
Dude, I would
much rather them kill a human.
I would rather watch 50 people get mowed down in torturous fashion than one animal get put to death.
Yep.
That's sick. That's so sick.
It's so true. It's so true.
Yeah, because animals
like Marley and Me probably took like weeks off of my life.
Oh God. It's because they're innocent. They're harmless. My buddy always said it. A good friend of mine, Dan, he's like, if you lock your wife in a car and let her out, a day later, she'll ask for a divorce. If you lock your dog in the trunk of a car, they'll lick your face and thank you for allowing them to come out.
It's really tripping me out to think about.
I don't recommend anybody lock their wife in the car. It's just a.
Well, I mean, if your wife can't figure out how to get out, that's probably the problem. I think about it now when I'm like gone for a day or two for the dog, and it's just like a day is a week.
Yeah.
And 4 days is a month.
If I come back 30 minutes later, they're the happiest in the world.
Yeah. I mean, if we were gone just for the afternoon, like I go downtown for Liverpool, even like 6 hours, or no, we'll even go 4 hours is 28 hours to that dog. That's a full day.
Meanwhile, my wife's like, you could have stayed out later.
Yeah.
Happy to have you guys with us. Take one single second if you haven't done so yet. Hit that thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment down below. We thoroughly enjoy reading and responding to all of them, especially on the days that get a little bit wild. But yes, atone for your sins on a Monday morning. Hit that thumbs up, help us get north of 100, and hopefully you guys had a great weekend. Also, remember, all of our stuff, Josh, in podcast form. Did you know?
I do know because I put 3 things on that podcast feed earlier today.
There it is, baby. Apple Podcast, Spotify, any archaic, unknown podcast platform that you may still listen to that we didn't know existed. Still, it's there. Anyway, let's talk some basketball.
I gotta hit on this one first from Chunk the Deuce. What did you cry more at? Remember the Titans or Hardball? That's a good one. The answer is Hardball. I cried uncontrollably at the end of Hardball.
Hardball was sad.
He might as well have been family the way that I was crying.
Yeah.
And I knew that kid for an hour and 15 minutes, and he's alive in real life.
Yes, he is. What said, most people sympathize with the killing of animals than people anymore. We're desensitized. It's bizarre. I think it's more so that just like there's a pure innocence.
It's an innocence.
To animals. Like I think that's what it is. I don't think that's
like kids in a movie would be the same thing as an animal.
Oh my God, dude, I can't handle that stuff.
Yeah. I mean that's spoiler alert for everybody that hasn't seen Hardball yet, but that's G-Baby in that scenario. Like there's a reason that's rough, because if Keanu's the one that drops in that movie, I don't cry the same.
Yeah, man. Nicholas said opening scene Saving Private Ryan. I didn't cry at that, but it's one of the best scenes ever in the history of any movie ever. For sure.
I don't really remember it. It's not a movie I like go back and watch.
Into the Wild, Dwayne said that was a good one. I just always remember my dad being like, this kid's a moron. Like
I was so jealous.
With Emil Hirsch. I remember him being like, this guy's a moron. And I mean, I look at it now and I kind of see why he did it and everything, but my dad was so disgusted with the behavior of that kid that I guess I could never really get too emotional over it.
I agree with like 90% of what he does in that movie, but if you just want to go up and live in the middle of the wilderness, just like set yourself up a little bit better to not immediately die. Like you don't have to go
an exit plan.
You don't have to go crazy with like modern amenities to just save your life pretty easily.
Right.
Like you don't have to go truly nuts for it. Like bring yourself a couple extra things. Like bring a couple lighters. Like is that really you're gonna feel like less of a man because you started your fire in an efficient manner? Like just
right. You don't need to eat poisonous stuff that you don't know. Yeah.
No, like you can figure that out.
Yeah. But man, he was so, he was so disgusted by that dude. I mean, like overly, unnecessarily disgusted by it. But
I think I've talked about this on the show before.
What?
Crying during TV and movies. I feel like I've talked about this before.
I think we have. There's plenty, man. There's plenty that I've gotten emotional at.
About Time is a relatively new movie. Rachel McAdams. I cried pretty aggressively at the end of that one. That was within the last few months.
There's a lot. For some reason, I just can't think of any specifically now. But I know there's plenty of them. I know there's plenty of them out there that have worked me up a bit. You know what I mean?
About Time's good.
Think of some throughout the show.
Good movie. Fun premise.
Jeff said the end of Armageddon gets me every time. Yeah, dude, the end of Armageddon was actually
when he pushes him back into the tube. Oh my God. I cried in the theater for that. That movie came out when I was like 14.
Yeah.
I think I cried with my like middle school girlfriend. Man, she must have thought I sucked.
iRock said Interstellar when he was watching his daughter.
Oh, if you don't cry during that, you're dead inside.
Anything that has people talking shit too. In chat, anything that has kids involved in it, like something bad happening with the kids, that's what usually does me in for sure.
Yeah, I'll cry a couple times during Interstellar. Like it's more than one spot.
All right, let's talk about Sacramento and Cleveland. The Notebook, John. No, man, come on now, come on. I'm still man enough to not let that one get me. I have seen it. All right.
Good. To be fair, this is going to sound bad for The Notebook, but I didn't cry at The Notebook because I hated the scenes with the old people. I wanted them to just cut all of that out and only show
So
the
you were
Rachel
more just
McAdams,
mad
Ryan
about it.
Gosling parts. Yeah, like I didn't care. I was like, yeah, go, whatever, die. I don't give a shit. You're old.
Sacramento and Cleveland. Let's make it happen. Kings 4.5-point dogs, 235 total. So all right. Jared Allen's questionable. I don't see any reason to believe that he's not going to play in this game. Coming off a nice effort last time out. Oh, I meant to mention, second of a back-to-back, Josh. Raptors, Clippers, and Hornets. Front end of a back-to-back. You good?
Yeah, well, I'm getting my downstairs bathroom torn apart right now, and all I hear are power tools. So I just didn't know if you guys were hearing power tools.
Got you. Front end of a back-to-back, Mavericks and Nets. So they both play tomorrow. Raptors, Clippers, and Hornets are on the second leg of a back-to-back. We can dive into it with Sacramento. I think I've said it a bunch. This team just consistently seems healthy.
Yeah.
Not getting a ton of ownership there. Malik Monk, $5,400. That's an interesting one because it wasn't long ago, maybe like 2 days, that you and I were talking about, his minutes starting to tick down a bit. He got hot early in that last game, played 34 minutes, had a monster game. Is this going to be another Colin Sexton, Spencer Dinwiddie type situation when it comes to Malik Monk?
I think it's just going to be the same story you get from Malik Monk all the time. Like when they're at full strength, there's going to be days where he plays 20 minutes, and there's going to be days where he's hot and he closes over someone else and plays 30, and you're just never going to feel great about it. Your minutes projection from Malik Monk is basically just going to be the midpoint of those two sort of outcomes. He's never really going to play what you project. You're either just going to get the big day or the bad day. And he's self-fulfilling too, because like if you know his minutes, you know he probably played well, because it's not like they're playing him extra on a day where it's not cooking for Monk. So he's just back into that tricky spot. Herder's minutes coming down a notch or two as well. There's not a lot of priorities here from Sacramento. It's a tough spot against Cleveland, number 2 defense in the league. They don't exactly play fast. Mobley's back. Highest owned dude is Monk at 11%. That's exactly where we have the optimal rate. We do have Fox under owned. I don't see anybody that I want to get specifically from Sacramento, but since it's a 6-game slate, you can get Fox, Sabonis, Murray, Herder, Monk. I have a couple shares of like all of those guys, but I don't have any more than 6% of anyone.
I don't know how to say this. FUIS says beta males. I'll take your chick. Jesse Lee Peterson has entered the chat, Josh.
Beta.
Amazing.
Dude,
amazing.
His clips make me laugh so much. The look on the person on the couch, the look on their face when he says something is priceless.
The one I sent you the other day was amazing. Amazing.
It's when they're like, is he really like, is he just, what's happening here? What is he saying? Like you can see the gears turning.
It's so good, man. Jared Allen on the other side is getting 10%. This game in general isn't pulling a ton of ownership. Wait till we get to, some of the Atlanta front court with Okongwu and a few of these other guys that are pulling really big ownership. We're going to dig in heavy to that. But with the Cleveland side, it's not the worst matchup. They're 4.5-point favorites. Jared Allen, 7,600. How deep is the center position today? Because I know there's a little bit of value there.
We've got some spots that we can get to, that's for sure. But one of them, well, you're probably using Okongwu at power forward. But he'll be a big piece.
Good call. S&P, yeah. I was
like white people.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, looking at both sides of this, though, we ran our Sims too. So we've got the Sims tool run. Jordan can flip over to Cleveland whenever he would like, and that would be helpful to me. But we're getting 8% Monk in exposure. Outside of that, not really getting anybody. And then look at our Cleveland exposure, 3% Jared Allen. We're essentially under the field on all of these guys, but the field's not high on them.
No, and it's basically the same situation on the Cleveland side as it was on the Sacramento side. You've got Jared Allen with that 10% ownership rate, sort of matching where Monk was at. Mitchell is kind of close. We've got Karis LeVert at 8% optimal. I see this basically the same way. I have 6% Levert. I've got a little bit of Mitchell, a little bit of Niang, a little bit of Jared Allen. You can just sort of grab one-off shares of a couple of these guys. I do think Mitchell looks the best. I think he looks better than Jared Allen does, actually. 9,700, somewhere in that like 1.45 to 1.5 fantasy point per minute range. He's at a, basically like 30% usage, 30% assist rate, going to be, just shy of 30 real points. I'm still fine paying 9,700 for him, but guard in particular, like high 8K, low and like 9K guards is stacked today. And that's where it starts to get tricky. He's a really nice GPP pivot for some of these guys.
I feel like Dallas is messy in this. Looking at this Dallas Philly game.
Yeah.
This is a little messy for a couple of reasons. Now, they're 1.5 point favorites, 243 total. Joel Embiid may or may not return this season. I mean, that's where we're at this stage of the game. Tobias Harris is questionable. I anticipate him playing. He practiced in full yesterday. He was out with an illness before, so whatever. Melton and Batum are out. So there's not really a ton to get into there outside of the usual. But with Dallas,
do you want them to trade him?
What's that?
Do you want them to trade Embiid?
No.
You think this is just a situation where you got to just ride it till the wheels fall off?
Unless you could, we talked about it the other day. I'd be fine. I'd be okay with it if the haul was worthwhile. Like if you could make a trade where the first round, the bounty of first round picks that you're getting back aren't terrible picks.
Yeah.
And look, first round picks, and as well as I do, in basketball aren't the same as football. Like, first round pick, the 28th overall is not the same as the NFL. So I would be okay with it if, remember you mentioned OKC, not to say that that's necessarily feasible.
Yeah, I don't think that was happening, saying, but still.
Ideally, they have all of they have the resources to make some if they ever wanted to. Then I'd be fine with it because you could get some really good long-term value if you're the Sixers. Aside from that, though, I don't really want to do it.
Okay. I think just like at some point in time, you have to just start wondering, like, can this man be healthy for the stretch run of a season?
I'd say for me, anything's on the table, but it would take so much to be, in my opinion, worthwhile, other than just like running him till the wheels fall off,
Okay. Yeah.
But Irving's probable. Yeah. Doncic is questionable. Maxi Kleber's questionable. Exum and Derek Lively are out. So, I mean, Kleber played 33 minutes or something last game?
Yeah, that's probably why he's questionable.
Right. He played a lot of minutes. If he doesn't play, I mean, does that mean we have to start looking heavily at Dwight Powell? And
or we do I wonder if we're gonna play a shit ton of Rashawn Holmes and then he doesn't play at all game again.
There's that. Yeah, Maxi played, I think it was 33 minutes or something last game, right?
Yeah.
Around there.
33.8.
Yeah, almost 34 minutes. And then we have to project Luka in right now, but he's up to $12,000. He had a handful of games with Kyrie out. Irving's expected back. So what do we do with that Luka price point?
I like him. I have 14%. We have him at 22. And he's like not that negatively leveraged. He's projected like nobody else on today's slate. That's really like how it all shakes out. Even at 12K, that's 1,900 more expensive than Sabonis. I've got him 15 fantasy points ahead of Sabonis. Like he's just on a completely different level. And I'm expecting that we have enough value on today's slate that it's not hard to get to him. I think that's why you're seeing 22% ownership coming in, even with Kyrie in for this spot. So if you can find it, get to Luka because, we've got him right around 20% optimal. I also don't mind getting to Kyrie, but he's in that blurry 8K, 9K guard range. So he's 10% owned. I have 6. Maxi's the tricky one. I went 28 minutes. We went 30. I have no trust of like how long he can be out there, how long they want him to be out there. I don't think they want to just go out there and play him 30 minutes again because I just don't think he's cut out for it. That seems like a breaking case of emergency type thing, but he is a solid enough value option at 4,100 power forward center, but he is also atrocious on a per minute basis.
Yeah, he really is. Now, I mean, the question becomes if let's just say Kleber ends up sitting, Lively's already out. So where would you distribute those minutes? Like what do you think that would look like? Because
if Maxi's out?
If Maxi Kleber sits, yeah.
I think that you're then getting Rashawn Holmes starting at center.
Okay.
You basically take the 0 minutes you're giving Rashawn Holmes and the 30 that you're giving Maxi Kleber and just flip flop those things.
And then Powell continues to play the minutes behind him.
Yep.
Okay, but if that happens, especially with no Embiid, then Rashawn Holmes becomes like, if he's starting. And by the way, this is a 7 p.m. start, so we'll know.
Yep.
Then Rashawn Holmes just becomes as good a value, if not better, than literally anyone on the entire slate.
Yes, he does.
Yep.
Yeah, he's 3,700. I mean, he's call it 0.9 fantasy point per minute guy if he's going to play alongside of Embiid or alongside of Luka. So 0.9 at 30 minutes is 27 fantasy points. That's 7.3x. He's 70% owned.
And the thought
Something
of this
like
will give Sean V some action in his trousers, because Rashawn Holmes facing his former team in the Philadelphia 76ers. You were really fired up about this the other day.
He's a dope. What do you want me to say?
Anything else for Dallas?
I don't think so. We need a little bit more news for sure, but yeah, this could create a big time chalk Rashawn Holmes day. It could make Dwight Powell look a little bit better if he gets named the starter. Like, that's, you're not going to go as crazy for Powell as you would for Holmes, but he will still be a value option. I don't have much interest in Derek Jones Jr. or like Tim Hardaway or anything right now, unless we get Luka out. At which point, if we get Luka out, then we're bumping up everybody. And then Kyrie goes from mildly interesting to very interesting.
Willie K mentioned, and I mentioned this at the top of the show as well, Willie, but said Dallas on front end of a back-to-back as well. Could definitely see Kleber sitting this one out. Yeah, I mean, look, I don't know if they're going to do anything front end, back end of back-to-backs. They have enough injuries as it is, but it is a back-to-back. So,
yeah,
you know, something could happen here where maybe that does happen, right? Like maybe after playing 34 minutes, Kleber sits and plays tomorrow. It's totally possible. They got the Nets tomorrow, also on the front end of a back-to-back.
Wouldn't be surprised.
No.
They're going to do some weird stuff over these next 2 days for sure.
No question. And we'll see. But yeah, like you would think Luka plays both of them, but I don't know. This is a spot where you tune into the Deeper Dive and Live Before Locked for sure, because things will get changed. And plus, let's see what the starting lineup looks like. All of that stuff. I mean, anything could change. What about on the Sixers side, where you've got Tobias Harris, $7,400. He's pulling some ownership. Maxey, $9,100. Maxey finally had a legitimately efficient game with Joel Embiid absent, 51. And then he went and shot 8 for 23 the following night. And to be honest, a lot of his struggles early on contributed to them getting in such a big hole against the Brooklyn Nets at home. Ben Simmons did not attempt a shot in that game, by the way. But
what else is new?
Yeah, I think he had 9 and 5 and didn't shoot. He had 9 rebounds, 5 assists, didn't shoot. But look, if we know one thing about Maxey, the peripherals are not going to be pretty, particularly with Embiid off the floor too. But he is going, as far as assists go, he's going to chuck like that. It's that simple. He's going to get shots up, whether they're going in or not going in is completely irrelevant. Maxey, if he's out there and this game stays competitive, 1.5 point spread right now, he's going to play upwards of 40 minutes and he's going to shoot a lot, 30+% usage. That's the good. The bad is that when the ball is not going in, he's not going to salvage elsewhere.
I have 62%. I think he's one of the best plays on today's slate.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I get it. I totally
He looks
it.
incredible. He looks incredible. Dallas's defense isn't very good. Maxey with Embiid off in this matchup is like a 1.35 fantasy point per minute guy. I have him in for 29% usage, 30% assist rate. His points prop right now on FanDuel is 30.5. It's exactly where I have him. His assist prop is at 6.5. That's exactly where I have him. He's just going to put up a ton of volume at 9,100. I think he is very easily the guy that I don't want to say that I want to pay up for, because I want to like couch this statement a little bit, because he and Luka are like sort of different things. But if we ignore Luka at 12K, because Luka's still projecting for 15 fantasy points more than Maxey, we're just not talking about the same thing. All those 9K, 10K, 8K guys, this is the guy that I want the most. I think he looks the best out of everybody.
He looks,
And it might look even better if Tobias Harris ends up out.
yeah, I don't think he will, but yes. But if he does, then yeah, Maxey, 40% usage. I mean, in all seriousness, outside of Maxey, if you take Harris off the floor, who's getting the ball? Seriously, think about that. Like Kelly
They don't
Oubre.
have any creators on this team.
Oubre is the only one that you can assume sees a true, like a significant bump in usage, but Beverly's not that guy. Daniel House.
They need to get Kyle Lowry in here. Stat.
It's actually, and just play Maxey at the 2.
Or no, well, they need somebody. What happens for the 10 minutes when he's not out there? Like, they just don't have another actual creator that can go out there and run an offense. It's not Pat Bev, no matter what anybody wants to think it is.
No, of course not. I think
they need another guy that can organize an offense.
I think you start Maxey alongside Lowry.
Oh yeah, you can. I mean, Lowry can play handle the defensive assignments.
And also Melton should be back at some point. So
yeah. Not exactly a natural creator himself either.
I was going to say Melton's I think Melton's a pretty good player, like a good guy to have on the floor, but he's not
he's the perfect fifth dude.
Exactly. But that's what he is.
Yeah. Yeah. He's like the poor man's Derek White.
Sure. Yeah, sure. He's good. He's a good player. He's a guy that people want on the team. Put it that way.
Someone has to play that role. You can't just have 5 Kobe's, you know?
Exactly.
Like, you need you want those like can be lower usage dudes that are gonna fit. And that's Melton.
But Tobias Harris at 7,400 also looks pretty good in this spot. Assuming he's good to go and there's no limitations. I hate these illness things because they could play, but they're not 100%. I'm really not particularly worried about that. If Harris at 74 is out there and they're like, oh, he's good to go. By the way, like I said, full practice yesterday. So my guess is because this is an illness, not an injury. There's no rehabilitation. My guess is he's good to go, and he's also going to play a ton of minutes. I like him a lot, and I like Maxey a lot.
I have 42% Tobias Harris at 21% ownership. He, much like Maxey, just gets a completely different role without Embiid around. 25% usage, 20% assist rate, 10% rebounding rate, 1.2 to 1.25 fantasy points per minute. Small forward, power forward, only 7,400. As long as he can play his normal minutes today, I think he looks like a fantastic option. We have him better. He's 21% optimal to Maxey's 18. But after that, you're not really playing anybody from the Sixers.
Yeah, there's really nothing there. Plus, price points have come up with Joel Embiid out. Not helpful. Anyway, LA Lakers. Highest ownership going to Anthony Davis. For what it's worth, him and LeBron are questionable. Assume both of them play. Vanderbilt could be done for the year, though, so we can spend a second on that. But yeah, just looking at ownership, you have 21% going to Davis. We do have him negatively leveraged in the boom bust tool, only 13% optimal. Outside of that, nobody is pulling more than 7% ownership going into this 6-gamer.
No, I don't think they look very good. I'm in agreement with our negative leverage here. I have 2% of AD. And it's not that he doesn't look good individually. Like, if you like Anthony Davis, you can find plenty of positive ROI lineups to play with him. But 9,900 power forward center, 1.4, 1.45 fantasy points per minute. You know you're booking that power forward center style spot with a boatload of Onyeka Okongwu at one point. So you know you have like a sort of a lock play in AD's wheelhouse. I think there are just easier spots to find better plays, but I don't want to undersell AD. He can clearly go out there and, hang 70, and you absolutely have to have him. After that, like, a couple shares of LeBron's fine. Maybe a share or two of Austin Reeves is fine. It should be a good matchup, but the problem here is that both offenses suck. Lakers are 20th in offensive rating. Charlotte's 28th, and worse than 28th when LaMelo's not around and Rozier's not around and Gordon Hayward's not around. This is the lowest total on today's slate. I'm happy not having a ton here.
Yeah, totally understand that, but we have to talk about this backcourt situation for Charlotte if Martin's out again. I mean, he was a late addition to the injury report yesterday.
Yeah.
We have him projected in right now because, it's a second of a back-to-back. Who really knows? I know Ish Smith only played 26 minutes, came out about 2 minutes left. He would have played around 28 if that game wasn't over and they didn't pull all of the starters. Bridges still played 38. Richards played 33. Brandon Miller played 38. You know, and then I mentioned this to you the other day. PJ Washington really is the type of guy that if he gets hot, he can put up monster numbers, or
Yeah.
he just completely kills you, right? Like look at the disparity in games that you see from him, you know, night in and night out. He drops 43 points, 57 fantasy points, then completely useless, then 26 and 8, then disappears against OKC in that blowout loss where they were down by 50 at half. And then yesterday against Indy, sure, they lose by 16, but he drops 22 and 9 with 3 stocks, has 43 fantasy points. Like PJ Washington's all over the map, but if the game is remotely competitive, and it's the NBA on it, there's no parity in the NBA at the end of the season, but on a night to night basis, there is. Unless Boston is facing the Memphis Grizzlies. We saw that one coming.
Yep.
I told you, like, that's the one spot where I'd actually consider laying 18, you know? And I think they won by 40. But
they did win by 40.
But Washington, if it's close, is playing 30 plus minutes and he's getting up a good amount of shots. I still think we got to talk about Charlotte because, especially if Cody Martin's out. If Cody Martin's out, then what do we do now?
I got 28% of a 4% owned Cody Martin right now. So if he's in, I like Cody Martin quite a bit. Because I assume if he's in, he's starting again at the point.
You would think,
but
yeah.
You know, if he's not, then it just brings Ish Smith into play.
Ish Smith stinks, but he's cheap. So if
he sure does. So I mean, Cody Martin's not great, but he's great when he's the starting point guard. He does get an assist rate bump. What I won't dig too much into Cody Martin or Ish Smith because we're going to get that information, and you need to know which one of them's playing. I have 42% of Brandon Miller right now at 6,800, small forward eligible, 16% owned. We have him about 11% optimal. So a little bit of negative leverage, but just playing big minutes. They just don't have anybody else. That's really what it all comes down to. They're playing at home. This is about as competitive as they're going to get for like an average matchup. You expect him to just be out there shooting and doing all the things that he can do now as a rookie with all of these guys out. So I'm happy to take that stand. I'm also getting to Bridges at 8,200, 1.15 fantasy points per minute right now, 27% usage with all those guys off the floor. I'm at 14% for PJ Washington at power forward center, 6K, easy to get to. Certainly don't mind getting to Nick Richards in any way. He's going to play around 30 minutes every night. There's a lot to like here for Charlotte. And no matter how it hashes out between Cody Martin and Ish Smith, one of those two guys is going to look like a reasonable enough value play.
Yeah. Travis said, I'm going to start a website that tracks DraftKings points per minute. Plenty of them out there.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think you need to do that. I think you can find all of them quite quickly.
Yeah. Just the name of, like, even StatMuse now has improved to the point where you can get like on-offs and stuff. And
yeah,
with a guy add more funds free.
PBP stats, if you want to calculate it yourself.
There's a lot. There's a lot out there.
Yeah.
Good morning, Richard Fernandez. Nice to see you, man.
The third.
Yes. 1, 2, 3. Anyway, there's a lot. Like there's a lot for this Charlotte team, depending on the news. It's gross, but like you're not going to get LaMelo today or any of the, like, Gordon Hayward's not going to play.
Nope.
Williams isn't going to. Like, all of these guys were effectively considering out already. So I don't know. I'll say this much, Josh. I don't want to belabor the point here, but just from an overall minutes perspective, I know it's a second of a back-to-back, but what if we're going out there and it's like, oh yeah, we're going to be getting these huge minutes again from Bridges and Miller and potentially PJ Washington.
I think we are, because they just don't have a choice. They're not going to be playing any of these other, those guys are going to play those minutes because they don't have other people to play those minutes.
Right. So it's not exciting. They're huge home dogs, but the minutes for these starters are huge right now. They're massive.
They're also always huge home dogs. Like the Lakers are an average team. They're 17th in net rating and they're 10-point dogs, which means like they're 10-point dogs against most of the league, if not more.
Yep.
So like this is just a typical Charlotte game.
Yeah. Exactly. Richards isn't great, but he's 5,700. If it's close, he plays
32. Yeah, 33. Yeah. Could very easily play those minutes at least. You know, we saw him play 32 and a half just in their most recent game. Played 37 and 36 on the 27th and 29th of January. Like he can get a big run
He had a
if it's going well.
monster game not long ago, too.
Yeah,
Yeah, he can get it done.
sure
All right.
can.
I wanted to just one more question. If you talked about him, feel free to just move on. But Brandon Miller at this current price point, uh, did you dig into Brandon Miller?
I led off with him.
All right.
42% owned for me, my number one guy from the Hornets.
All right. Yeah, I was reading chat and looking at some of the comments, trying to add some commentary, but that fell flat. Anyway, yeah, 42%. It's a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. He looks, I mean, looks, small forward is a notoriously difficult position to fill, and no one is getting into his playing time. Like, he's going to play every single second he is possibly able to play in any sort of competitive game. That's exactly what they want out of him right now.
Yep.
He's got the keys, basically.
Yo, so Jordan and I do a Hall of Fame segment every week
Yes.
where like all of the avatars, all the people repping the avatar, stokastic.com/avatar, by the way. Wherever it is they play, DraftKings, FanDuel, you name it. Finish top 3 in a field of 5,000 or more, you get a free month, $200 value of any subscription that you want. So that's like our Sims, our Boom Bust tool, Top Stacks tool, all of that. We've had just some beauties lately. And okay, for example, we got this one yesterday from Adam. Been a huge fan of Stokastic. Recently got Sims package. Took down the 60K 4-point play last night with the Sims tool. Best in the business. So recently got it. Takes down the 4-point play. All right, that's good. So I'm searching through these this morning. Then you have John Good, another one. Been a Stokastic member for a long time, but finally decided to try the Sims tool. This happened on the first night. Best in the biz, fantastic addition to the community. Takes down second place in the mini max. Lil Soupy, who I know from our Discord, uses the Sims, took first place in the mini max on the same day. The list goes on. I'm just scrolling and scrolling. It has been really cool to see this. And the other thing, here's one from Andrew. First week with the Sims package, it already more than paid for itself. $600 chopped first in the mini max. The one thing I'm noticing, and I wasn't sure this would happen because it's not the cheapest tool out there. And the lineup generator obviously does many of the same things and has many of the same features and is a lot cheaper and is the best tool you'll find for the price out there if you're not someone looking to spend a lot. But I've noticed people are using and winning with the Sims tool and just paying it off out of the gate with, and I'm not saying it's going to happen for everyone. We know how it works. No one's snake oiling here, but like playing it in the mini max, right? And the 4-point play and not playing like $3,000 in volume a night and still coming up with these monster wins. And even like the 600, the 1,000, the 2,000 using the Sims tool has been really positive, like really plus EV.
It's great. It's great to see. And it's great to see people be able to use it in those sorts of contests and like really pay it off for themselves for a bit and see what the benefit is. Hopefully work their way up in stakes if they can, if they want to. You obviously don't. It doesn't necessarily have to be anything anybody's interested in, but it's clearly just very obviously working. You see the leaderboards and you see our Stokastic Hall of Fame mentions on a day-to-day basis. It's littered. There's fresh stuff that I'm tagged in every single morning.
Yeah, several of them. And a lot that we're not tagged in where it's just Stokastic Hall of Fame. The link's in the description and in chat. If you guys want to try it for a week, for a month, there's an all access too, where you get a huge discount. It's on all of our Sims tools for every sport. If you're a multi-sport player, get a huge discount if you're repping the avatar or the lineup generator, man. Like the lineup generator for the price is fantastic, but I consider something too. Like you may not see the faces of some of the guys that built these tools, like the Sims tools, right? Because there's other Sims tools out there, but you may not see them doing content, likely because they're working on this stuff. But like Steve Buzzard just won a milli last week.
Sure did.
We built this Sims tool with other like Alex Baker. You may not see him on camera anymore, but Alex Baker, all of the models that we use as data points for this, one of the most successful DFS players to ever do it. Eddie Lai never did kind of because he was building the tools and he's up atop of leaderboards every single. Tom Kennedy, our CEO, was the one that brought the Sims to the table for Stokastic, and this guy. So. Yeah, I think people sometimes forget, like the people behind the scenes that made these tools are literally the best DFS players in the world.
They certainly are. They certainly are. And they're just on a regular basis. at the top of everything you see. One of
But
those four guys is probably going to have like obviously Alex is playing a little bit less now, but like one of
with the
those
kid,
four guys is going to be at the top of a contest, generally speaking, each night.
it's crazy. So you ever
I
want
don't
to
mean the
try it?
tippy top, but like in contention.
But you don't need to be some like that's why the Sims tool is here to make it so like you can now legitimately compete every single night, and you're seeing it in the mini max and the 4-point play and the fadeaway. So you want to check it out? Link in the description and in chat. The lineup generator is down there too. It's basically Sims Lite. It's still simming all of these lineups behind the scenes. You can upload them to CSV, keep the lineups you want, discard the ones you don't like. We had a guy take down the 4-point play with the Sims or with the lineup generator for 6K just last week.
Yeah,
Had
that's
it for
the best.
32 hours. So that excites me. Just wanted to talk about that for a second. And if you ever have questions, my DMs are open and we have tutorials everywhere. If you have questions about how the tools work. Golden State and Brooklyn. Andrew Wiggins is doubtful, Josh. We can dig into this. Ben Simmons DFS out on the other side of that one. But just looking at Golden State for a second here in a game that has a 237 total in Brooklyn and the Warriors are 2-point dogs. What do you make of Pajemski? 24% owned right now, coming off some big minutes, playing well, point guard, shooting guard eligibility, no Andrew Wiggins.
He's the guy you got to get to here because he's just the guy that's going to get like the most real minutes bump. We gave him 36. I still got to 18% of him at 25% owned, and I gave him 33. 3 more minutes is going to be like 3 more fantasy points, and he's going to look a lot better and show up in a lot more lineups for me. But even still, it doesn't take a lot to get yourself to Pajemski today. Point guard, shooting guard, 5,700. Now, if he's starting, he's just not going to be the same sort of per minute guy that you can pull from his rates from the rest of the year. Like he's a 0.85 to 0.9 guy. If you're going to be playing alongside of the main dudes a little bit more, especially with Draymond back. But at the same time, that still works for the amount of playing time you expect him to soak up. They're just leaning heavily on a starting lineup now. You're getting those guys playing 30 plus minutes instead of this like scattered 26 from a bunch of different dudes. So he is very clearly the priority. I don't have any Draymond. I tend to not get Draymond all that frequently. I don't know why. Totally fine. Kuminga, totally fine. I have 6%. Clay, totally fine at 6K. Shooting guard, small forward. A 0.9 fantasy point per minute guy now, which is pretty gross, but you get him in like 10% of lineups because of his position. Steph, like your ultimate contrarian play if you want it today.
We talked about this the other day where it was, remember this? We talked 60. About it where it was Trey, it was Steph, it was Booker, and it was SGA. And mind you, in 30 minutes, SGA still had a very nice game.
He did.
But this ends up going to overtime, and it's not like Trey didn't have had a bad game either. He had a good game. But this goes to overtime, and Steph Curry ends up outperforming all of them by a mile. 79.5 DraftKings points, 60 real. That was the point you and I are making when it comes to these contrarian guards at similar price points, that even if it's not maybe the best spot in the world, they're just so good that when they catch fire, there's no slowing them down. He's shot like 80 times.
Yeah, he hit 60, not a lot of free throws either. But here's the problem. Mitchell, 9,700, Trey, 95, Curry, 94, Maxey, 91, Harden, 87, Irving, 85, Fox, 83. Like that's just, somebody's going to just have a good game out of that, or 2 people are going to have like really good games out of that pretty regularly. And the odds of either one of those things, like any one of them can be that dude. Some are more likely than others for sure. And it's why you don't see Steph get as much love in this spot. But are you surprised at all if he just goes and hangs another 45 on people because he made 9 threes? I'm not.
No, obviously not. It wouldn't surprise me at all. And yeah, Mike, we have the Sims for Super Bowl, lineup generator for Super Bowl as well. What's up?
I think it's fun. Sims or snake oil.
Yeah, I don't know, man.
That shit makes me that kind of stuff makes me so happy on the inside. It's like, oh, there's still edge out there.
What I would do is I would go back to yesterday's show that you and I did, and I would recommend watching the entire segment you and I did on how to approach the Sims.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Makes me happy.
The late swap feature for NBA is a legitimate game changer.
Yeah. Late swap was miserable. Miserable. I
without
wanted
a
it to go away. I played on FanDuel for years because they didn't have it, because it made my life easier. And then they got rid of it and it sucked. And then they had that like drop score thing for a year, which I didn't hate, but was still also annoying. Would be really interesting to see what that looked like in the Sims tool now. Um, and then now it's just like, all right, well, if you have to late swap, like for the past 2 years, it's just been a miserable experience.
takes
And
three
now
minutes
it,
now.
it doesn't get easier.
Takes 3 minutes with the the late swap tool. Yeah.
It's funny. Now we're dropping those late games at a time where like I don't need them to the same way that I used to.
It's
Now
so
now
true.
it's just for like so that I don't have to give a shit. Not because like I don't want to be awake until 10:20 late swap in the Warriors game or something
You
like
guys
that.
would be shocked how many people don't get to like Isaiah Jackson on Friday night.
Yeah.
You would be shocked how many people just don't do it. And it's an edge that exists, but an edge that exists exponentially more when you have something that can just optimally swap all of them for you in minutes. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's pretty sweet. Anyway, anything else you want to do at Golden State? Like Podziemski obviously is the best play here for Golden State, but we can move to Brooklyn if you want and dig into this a little bit.
I have nothing else to say for Golden State. I mean, so does the public, but I have the entire Brooklyn Nets team because they're not priced correctly.
Lonnie Walker, man.
Everybody, dude. The whole team.
I know.
They
Cameron
have
Johnson, Cam
8
Thomas.
guys more than 12% owned and 7 guys more than 20%
That is
owned.
crazy. Yeah. All right. So how do we approach something like this where the ownership here this isn't a 2-game slate either. Like this is still a 6-game slate.
Yeah.
Look, I get it at 4K, Lonnie Walker. I get it. He's $4,000. He's played 30 plus minutes in back-to-back games. A bunch of these guys are just going to make sense.
There's really not much to say, honestly. I think they're the easiest team to talk about.
Well,
play everybody.
Play all of them?
Yeah. Yeah. Look, let's just do it. The easiest way to do this. Cam Thomas is 30% owned. Cam Johnson is 40. DSJ is 20. Lonnie Walker is 50. Mikal Bridges is 20. Claxton is 20. Royce O'Neal is 12. Spencer Dinwiddie is 25. None of those guys are bad plays at all. I don't have as much DSJ. I don't have as much Royce O'Neal. They should still be in conversation, but every single one of these dudes is like $600 cheaper than they should be today. I have 50% of Lonnie Walker, 50% of Mikal Bridges, 60% of Cam Johnson, 30 of Cam Thomas, 30 of Dinwiddie, 20 of Claxton. You just have to get to these dudes, whatever combination you're really looking for, because they're all playing. They don't really mess around with their rotation all that much. Like Trendon Watford is going to sneak on there for a couple minutes. Do what you want with like DSJ playing 18-ish minutes. Maybe he's the guy you want to get away from. But the regular dudes, Thomas, Johnson, Bridges, Claxton, I don't know what you're supposed to do to get away from those guys. Like, you might want to get away from 1 or 2, but there's still 3 more behind them that have 20% optimal rates. They're the simplest team to talk about because you don't even need the context.
You really don't. I guess the only question now, if one of these guys was least or most likely to just not see the minutes, is it Lonnie Walker? Like if he doesn't get hot out of the gate, is it Lonnie Walker?
To not see the minutes?
Yeah. That they didn't see.
Dinwiddie.
You think Dinwiddie? Yeah, that's
I think
true.
they're more likely to cut Dinwiddie to like an uninteresting range than Lonnie Walker loses enough to not still be about, because Lonnie Walker is 4K and shooting guard small forward. Even if he plays 22 minutes, like that's still a price tag that can be fine. Yeah. I went to 25. We went to 24, but like there's some wiggle room for him. Whereas Dinwiddie's 5K, he's point guard only. If he falls to like 25 minutes, you're probably not getting a good Dinwiddie game. It's probably telling you that you're getting more Lonnie Walker or DSJ at that spot. But I think Dinwiddie is probably the guy they care the least about in this scenario. Claxton's been down a little bit lately, but they don't really have alternatives.
I mean, yeah,
especially with no Ben Simmons.
We have Lonnie Walker negatively leveraged, but we still have him 36% optimal.
Yeah, that's the big thing. We have 5 guys 20% or more optimal. And it's
Right.
not like Royce O'Neal at 16 and DSJ at 12 are like low numbers either.
And to your point, I think you're right about Dinwiddie. The thing about Dinwiddie is when his minutes do drop significantly, it's because he's objectively having a bad game.
Yeah, he wasn't going to be good for you anyway. The minutes
Right.
weren't the problem.
Right. All right. Let's keep it moving here. God, Brooklyn is a crazy team
Yeah.
today. I don't
I'd like to
understand.
add more, but I mean, they have what's the aggregate? 224% aggregate ownership. You're
That's
looking at 2 to 3 in every lineup you're building, basically, on average.
amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Like if there were 1 or 2 guys that just weren't getting it, then we could talk about that relationship. But it's literally everybody every single person that's projected to play 18 minutes or more is in double digits of ownership and optimal rate.
And then you get to the Clippers, who are 3-point favorites against the Hawks. It is a 242.5 point total, so that's not nothing. So it's essentially tied for the highest on the slate with Dallas and Philly. But outside of Kawhi Leonard, there's just not a lot there. I mean, I don't know what Zubac's minutes are going to look like, but he's back, right? So now you've got the center rotation that looks uglier. He played 18 minutes in his return.
He's not going to
Yeah.
play today.
What's that?
He's not going to play today.
You don't think? Oh wait, is this the second leg of a back-to-back for them?
It is.
It is.
Yeah.
You're right. Yep.
I mean, like that's not out there, but like I have no concept of how he came back from a calf injury, played 18 minutes, and is going to play the second half of a back-to-back. That would make zero sense. So I think they bring Daniel Tice back into the rotation because he didn't play yesterday. They went to Plumlee. And I think you're just going to get the standard Plumlee-Tice combo that we've been getting. And that's how we have it projected as well.
You're right. I mean, Garland came back and played 2 legs, first and second leg of a back-to-back, but that was, I think, a jaw, not a lower body.
Yeah.
So makes a difference. Or Zubac's plays and he just plays. Maybe they played him 18 minutes because they're like, oh, we'll play you both of them.
Yeah, that's yeah. If he's back, he's not playing enough minutes that you look at him. Either.
Not at all. Not at all. If he's not in, though, what about Mason Plumlee?
Yeah, certainly going to look a little bit better. Well, I don't know. He's fine. Like if he's not in, I think Mason Plumlee is playing basically the same amount of minutes no matter what. Like yesterday, we got 26 over the past 2 games, which is kind of interesting because that's not really what he was doing when Zubac was out. Up until these 26 games, he was averaging 21. I gave him 23. He's just like a perfectly acceptable last dude into a lineup. We have him very positively leveraged. That seems a little lofty for me, especially because I don't have him projected differently than we do. So I think we probably see those numbers converge a little bit. Similar story for Russell Westbrook, who I don't expect to be 10% optimal, 2% owned today. The 2 priorities in this game are Kawhi Leonard and James Harden. I don't have them either.
I'm still like half football brained. So every time I look at Atlanta, I want to say Chig Okongwu, right?
Okay.
Even though it's spelled differently, but I don't know a ton of Okongwus. So
no,
not a ton.
No.
Jordan, what are you doing? Why are you doing that? You act as if I've said something outlandish.
Maybe you need to broaden your horizons and meet more Okongwus, Laffy. I think that's what he's trying to tell you.
I suppose. How many do you know?
Tons, dude. You have no idea, man. There's a big Okongwu population down here in Wilmington.
Either way, Okongwu is getting a lot of ownership right now. Clint Capella's out 7 to 10 days. The interesting thing about Okongwu is here's the kind of the fascinating thing about him. So often you get a starting center go down and he's like playing 30 plus minutes per game. Okongwu already played pretty good minutes, right? Like he already played a lot of minutes. He has power forward center eligibility, 36 minutes in that overtime game last time out. On a per minute basis this year, he's slightly below 1 fantasy point per minute, but we know that he can produce. He's 5,100. We do have him negatively leveraged, only 27.9% optimal in our boom bust tool, but he's 5,100 power forward and center eligibility. That's hard to not have some interest in.
He's the best play on the slate. He's better than Lonnie Walker because like Lonnie Walker can be, but you have some lack of trust. Onyeka Okongwu over the past 2 seasons averages like 33.5 minutes per start when Capella is out. He's just playing a shit ton of minutes. Barring aggressive foul trouble, you're getting the full bore here. And he's power forward eligible. If he was just center, you'd be able to temper your expectations here. He's not. His power forward center at 5,100. I don't know how you don't like. He's an absolute lock button cash game play. I have 86% of him right now. Even if you want to discount him aggressively for being in a starting lineup alongside of everybody else, this dude is not priced. Like if you knew Clint Capella was out for the next 3 weeks, and Onyeka Okongwu is going to end up being like 6,500. That should tell you everything you need to know for today.
Absolutely. Yeah. It doesn't need to go much further than that.
No. Like, so you don't want to overthink it.
Would you consider any Bruno Fernando?
Flat 3K, going to play most of the minutes that you expect behind Okongwu. I think they can go to Jalen Johnson at the 5 for a little bit here against the Clippers, especially if Daniel Tice is out there. I have 6%. We have him 21% optimal, 7% owned. Those things will converge. But yeah, like I'm happy to get to a little bit of him as backup. You have Onyeka Okongwu pick up 2 fouls in the first minute of this game, and all of a sudden Bruno Fernando is playing 20 instead of 15, and you feel a lot better about it. I am taking one big other stand. This is where I'm going as my alternative guard here. I have 22% of Trae Young right now.
You do? Okay.
Yeah. So like AD is getting 20% ownership in this entire range. I didn't really have him. I've talked this entire show about how loaded this guard range is. I have 22% of Trae at this moment.
Have they played back-to-back overtime games?
Atlanta?
Yeah.
No.
I feel like no, that Phoenix game wasn't.
No.
No, you're right.
No Hunter, no Matthews in that one. Garrison, that is, not Wesley. So, and then Sadiq Bey got hurt during the game, so that's why you're seeing those starter minutes look high.
Yeah, he's questionable again today.
Yeah. And if he ends up out, that will open up a little bit more interesting stuff for the rest of these guys. Like I've got a little bit of Jalen Johnson, a little bit of DeJounte Murray, a little bit of Bogdan. You'll start to get a little bit more of all of them if we lose Sadiq Bey again.
But mostly Okongwu and then Trae Young.
For me, yeah. Okongwu is the like no one else can disagree with this play. Trae Young is sort of like my personal GPP flyer.
But it goes back again to what we've said. Like this guard position in that 9K range, it could be anybody.
Can be anybody. Yeah. If you want to tell me that it's Steph for you and not Trae, I'm not going to tell you that's wrong. If you want to tell me it's Donovan Mitchell and not Trae, sure, go for it. You want to tell me it's Harden or Kyrie or De'Aaron Fox? Yeah, like I'm not going to argue with you for those guys. I think Maxey is unequivocally the best one in this range. I think Trae Young to me is second, but you can move these dudes around.
Let's get to this last game. Hey, before we do, Josh, 2 things. One, whenever there's a good sign-up bonus, whenever there's free squares, we tell you about it. Vivid Picks, $300 first match deposit bonus, plus a $25 secured play. Meaning if you were to put $300 in, now you have $600, and your first play up to $25 is secured, which means you get all of it back in site credits in the event that you were to lose that. So that is very solid. Also, I have a sneaky suspicion that we are going to see quite a bit of promotional items in the form of free squares and discounted squares happening on Vivid and all of these other ones when it comes Super Bowl time. Matter of fact, right now for the Super Bowl, free square, Travis Kelce, 0.5 receiving yards.
They should have went some sort of like interesting prop
like
with
type deal.
Yeah.
Yeah. They already got one though.
Used rubs or something.
It was 72.5 down to 0.5 over or under on Vivid Picks. So you've got the free square and it's a pick'em site, just like Prize Picks, Underdog, all of the other ones out there, right? Sleeper. You're taking the sign up bonus when it's afforded to you. You're taking the $25 secured play and you're taking the free square. And hopefully, I mean, you're already turning that into money out of the gate. Yeah. Hopefully you're turning it into a whole lot more. And for those of you in the state of Arizona, and you are like me, who I'm in Pennsylvania, I can't play on these DFS pick'em sites However, I can legally sports bet. You will be able to soon as well, Josh, in North Carolina. It's
It's
exciting.
basically about a month.
Yep, that's exciting. Arizona just added Bet365. Bet $5, get $150 in bonus bets. That's literally all you deposit 10, bet 5, only 5 on whatever you want. Whether you win or lose, you're getting $150 in bonus bets. They just went live in Indiana too. So if you're in Indiana and you didn't know about this, take advantage. Maybe you're in the other states. They've been there for a while because they're only in like 9 states: New Jersey, Colorado, Ohio, Iowa, Kentucky, Louisiana, Virginia, and then, like I said, Arizona and Indiana. That's a great memory right there.
If you're right, it's gonna be like the presidents. You probably read it off the screen.
Brother, I don't do that type of stuff. It's all professionalism here. You bet
Oh,
$5, you get
phony.
150 in bonus bets. Even if you lose all of it at the end of the day, you're down $5. It's as simple as that. Got to be 21 years old or to gamble, though. You got to be 21 years old. And if you have a gambling problem, please call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. All right.
I gotta pause you one last time. I have one more random thing to bring up. I want to get your thoughts. What do
By
you
the way,
think?
links to both of those in the description if you're trying to get the promo sign up bonus and all that good stuff.
Shout out Vivid Picks.
Yeah.
What
And
do you think of the
Bet365.
app? What do you think of the Apple Vision Pro?
I don't know anything about it.
Okay, never mind.
Is that the like VR thing?
Mhm.
Okay.
That's fine.
Is it the
I don't
one
have
that's
any.
like, is it the one that's like $4,000?
It is. It's
Or
like
however much
3,500.
yeah, however much it is.
Yeah,
I
it's
I per-
incredible. Is
I
where I'm going with this.
I bet it is. I choose to stay away from that stuff.
Well, you won't choose for very long.
Did you
You will
buy one?
choose. No, but I'm going to.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe not this one. I'll certainly pick up round 2 for sure. Because this is basically like the first iPhone, the first iPod. The future is bright.
I think it's
It's
bleak.
insane. You're out of your mind.
I'm
You're out
not
of your mind.
comfortable. I'm not comfortable disassociating or detaching myself from reality.
You're not. That's the thing. This will not be that in the future. It just is sort of right now.
Like Ready Player One shit.
When it's just glasses, it's going to be mind-blowing. It's always going to get bigger, or it's always going to get smaller and crisper and cleaner and more efficient and pass through at 0, and it's going to be nuts. To see people doing things around their house where they have it on, they don't need a TV there in front of their face any longer. They set that up to be a Hulu screen. You look to your left, you see a calendar on the wall. You walk into your kitchen, it's a YouTube video above the stove of the dinner that you're cooking with timers above the pots and pans of how long that spaghetti needs to cook or how long whatever has been simmering. It leaves those things locked into the location that you had them around your home. It's insane.
It's incredible. I don't like it.
And it will, like now, like everybody's just like, oh, you look stupid, you're wearing ski goggles, whatever. You're missing the forest for the trees for what that is going to look like. Think about what your phone was 20 years ago in comparison to what that phone is now and the things that it does. Right now, the Apple Vision Pro is basically the equivalent of carrying around that cell phone in a briefcase in the 80s.
Nez said it's unfortunately awesome. I kind of agree with that.
Yeah.
Like I do have some
nuts.
It's because I have 2 young kids that this type of stuff scares me, honestly.
Yeah.
It does. It actually, you and I have discussed this before. It scares me. That's all. It's so powerful.
Yeah.
Like it's
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 the absolute unquestioned future.
It is, and that scares me. Yeah. It's so innovative. It's so powerful. Freaks me out a little bit, man.
Like imagine like walking through a store and looking at a product and you see that price and then it's immediately showing you the prices of it at Amazon and Walmart and Target and whatever. And it's just like, okay, instead of me buying this right now in this store, if I don't need it immediately, it's just like, bloop.
It's real Black Mirror stuff.
I love it so much.
So like, could you just have it programmed to where like you walk down the bread aisle and there's like a beautiful naked lady standing there?
Yeah. You could be looking at porn permanently and no one knows.
See, that's scary because then you're going to walk down like the toothpaste aisle and some guy's just going to be standing there with goggles on, pumping off all over the place
Why would he leave his house to just pump off in the bread aisle?
because it's voyeuristic.
No, he's just going to get arrested for pumping off in the bread aisle, man. You're not allowed to just jerk off because of it.
My concern, though, is that people start going, well, he's got goggles on, so give him a break.
Here's what I want to know. Because obviously you're going to be able to either make people look better. So like facial feature, like whoever you look at will look a little bit more attractive, or
This is
facial
not
replacement.
good.
Facial replacement. So like I'm going to look at Katie, or like Katie's going to look at me, and it's just going to be like, all right, he now looks like Ryan Reynolds when we do this. And I'm going to look at Katie and I'm like, all right, she now looks like Ryan Reynolds when we do this.
And then it gets a little bit too hot and heavy, and she bumps the glasses off of her face and goes, aha. And then
Yeah.
it just,
Yeah.
by the way, JMF said, sounds like a regular Tuesday at Walmart. Yeah, that's actually a good point. It's a good point. I don't know, man. Scares me. Scares me.
Josh of Los Angeles says, you guys are going to bang with goggles on. They're not going to be goggles forever. They're goggles now.
Almost
Eventually,
made,
they're just going to be glasses or
yeah,
contacts, which was really scary to think about.
almost made. Yeah, that's scary. This is Black Mirror. Like, look,
Yeah.
say what you want about how good this is. Black Mirror.
Yeah.
This is Black Mirror.
Yeah, there's obviously like unintended consequences for some of these things, but the practical real world applications for this are blowing my mind.
SMP. You can't watch porn and jerk off public now, Laffy. No one's looking at a guy with his hog out and saying, well, he has a naked lady on his phone, so give him a break. I know, man, listen, SMP, let me just bring you back to reality for a second, because we are quickly drifting from reality. And this is the intended purpose of these devices. What's going to happen is people aren't going to be able to contain themselves anymore.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't need someone spraying all over the honey mustard just because he's got some goggles on. That's all I'm saying. Okay?
All over the mayo.
Yeah, mixing the mayo with the honey mustard.
Yeah.
All right, let's get to this last game. Toronto and New Orleans. Nolans. Zion's questionable. Herb Jones is questionable. Larry Nance questionable. Do you have anything on Zion? Just like whether I don't know.
I have everybody in.
Okay. Well, do you have Jakob Poeltl in?
Mm-hmm.
Even second of a back-to-back, 33 minutes last night?
I do.
Okay. I do think it's possible that he doesn't play, but I can see why we'd keep him in.
Yeah.
Because
I wouldn't be surprised if that happens either.
Yeah. Anyway, does anything interest you for the Raptors right now? They are 11.5-point road dogs playing their second of a back-to-back on the road.
Not really. I got a little bit of Emmanuel quickly at 7K. We have him at 7% optimal. RJ Barrett is 10% optimal, 10% owned. I'm a little bit under on him right now. I don't think anything really stands out for Toronto. Between them and Charlotte, it's really weird. Toronto doesn't have good pricing on any of their guys like Charlotte does, because they both have basically the same implied total. I find Toronto very difficult to get to, whereas it's a lot easier to get to Charlotte. Quickly, Poeltl, Barrett, Barnes. I think they're the only things that you could do. And I don't even think you should be doing that all that frequently.
Hardward said porn will be a big part of those goggles. Oh my God. Yeah. Dude, you know how many people are buying them exclusively for that purpose? There's no doubt in my mind.
Yeah, as they should. It's sweet.
This will ultimately be the decline of civilization, because there'll be massive depopulation.
Maybe.
Like, that to me is a legitimate thought.
What they're gonna have now, they're gonna just start growing babies, because they're gonna have a warehouse that you can go into with just fleshlights, and you look forward and you're just
right. Yeah, that's
dropping off your seed for the day.
That's encouraging. That's where society was meant to go. My God. Yeah. It's ridiculous.
Ron, you are very, 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 very wrong. Yes, they are heavy. They are not going to fail. I'm quite confident.
Yeah, well, that's the problem. S&P said personal computers used to cost $4,000 in 15 years. The thing's
Yeah.
$699. That is the problem. As things develop and become more innovative and better, they actually become more available to the public and they become cheaper. If you were to take a
Yeah.
computer, a personal computer in 1974, I just did a video where I used this as a point on like sports betting plus EV tools and stuff like that. If you adjusted for inflation, it would have been like $7,300 today.
Yeah.
Now, this phone I'm holding in my hand is thousands of times more powerful than the computers that took us to the moon.
Yeah.
Dude, that is insane to think about.
The amount of computing power that is just in everyone's pockets at all time has not been harnessed in the way that you like are going to see it be done in the future.
And whether you believe we went to the moon or not is irrelevant at this point. Like the computers that did seemed like miraculous things back in the day. This thing right here, this is millions of times more powerful than them. It doesn't.
To be fair, you only needed a typewriter back then because we didn't go to the moon.
You don't think so?
No, nonsense.
We went. I mean, the Van Allen radiation belt is definitely a tricky subject, but we went. I think we went.
We landed on the moon.
And how about TVs, by the way? Like you could go out and buy an 80-inch TV for like $700 that looks so much better than a $5,000 projector TV.
You would have thought you robbed a like movie theater to have that kind of TV back in the day.
Yeah, right. I remember people had those like in-home movie theaters, and the TV, to get that out of your house after it died, you'd have to pay $1,000 just to get it removed.
Yeah. Yeah, they were massive. It was like moving an oil burner from your basement.
Pounds. Anyway, New Orleans Pelicans. I don't know what to make of the injury news here.
Not much to make of any of this right now.
There really isn't.
Like
we have Larry Nance pretty popular though.
He's 3,200. Like if he plays, he's playing 18, 19 minutes. I have 34% of him right now. He could also not play, so that changes things up a little bit.
Yeah.
If like BI and CJ and Zion all look very different to each other, whether or not he's in. The Herb Jones status is very important. Like we're getting a lot of ownership here, but it's Zion 15, Ingram 15, CJ 15, Joval basically 15, Nance up to 30. Like all those guys at 15% owned, they look like they should be about 15% owned. They're coming up with pretty comparable optimal rates. I agree with all of it. But then you get to so much more of Brandon Ingram or CJ McCollum or Joval if Zion ends up out. But if he's back, it does become harder to separate those guys, but 7,700 for Brandon Ingram, 6,900 for CJ, 7,500 for Zion. These guys are a couple $100 underpriced.
Yeah, and Nance being almost minimum salary is only center eligible is one thing. That's the tricky part. But
if he were power forward too, it would be a real issue.
Yeah, well, like 50% owned. I mean, he'd be very, very popular. But the truth is, he's right around the fantasy point per minute guy every single season. Nothing special about him, but if he gets close to 20 minutes, like you said, at that price point, essentially the dead min, you could do a whole lot worse than that. You really could. Should we, before we go, positions, top two at each position?
Why not?
Let's make it happen. All right. We'll kick it off at point guard. I know you mentioned you have a lot of Trae Young today. Where does he slot in among your favorite point guards?
So Tyrese Maxey is number one with a bullet for me. Trae Young is my fifth most exposed point guard, but he's only 4% owned. Similar story for Cody Martin here. They are like my GPP plays. I am with the field on Cam Thomas and Spencer Dinwiddie. So it's Maxey as my priority, willing to hold hands with Thomas and Dinwiddie, Cody Martin and Trae Young as my GPP options.
Shooting guard.
Shooting guard. A lot of the same, obviously. You know, the Cam Thomas crosses over, Cody Martin crosses over. Lonnie Walker is my most exposed guy. He is also the chalk play for today. No disagreements. Mikal Bridges is my second most exposed guy, and I am 2x the field there. 21% owned, 48% ownership for me. Really liking these Nets.
Power forward has a lot of growth spots, but you also have Miller, you have Harris, you have Bridges. There decent amount of good spots here in that mid-range.
So for small forward, Cam Johnson is my primary guy. I have about 62%. I have 244% ownership going to 5 guys. They are the only guys that are above 10%. That's Cam Johnson, Lonnie Walker, Mikal Bridges, Tobias Harris, and Brandon Miller. They're all 42 to 62% owned for me.
That's what I'm saying. It's kind of concentrated among a few guys, but there's a
Yeah.
few really good options at small forward.
There really are.
Power forward.
Onyeka Okongwu by a mile, the very clear, obvious dude to get to today. Cam Johnson, Tobias Harris, Miles Bridges, all right in that area again. After that, I don't really have much. Okongwu, I have an 86%, so it really limits the amount of other power forwards.
If we're using a Okongwu at power forward, who are our priorities at center right
Larry Nance is obviously getting a bit of love, 30-something% owned. Same for me for ownership. Miles Bridges, I guess, could be there. Nick Claxton's 20% owned. I have 20% of him. I'm kind of just rotating through everybody else, a couple shares of everyone else that exists.
Well,
I don't
guys,
have AD.
Yeah. You can follow Josh at Josh Engleman, me at Lafayette_D. Appreciate you guys hanging out as always. This was fun. We had about 600 people at the top. Maybe the grocery store talk threw a couple people off and they won't be back. But for those of you that stuck around, just know you are appreciated. Thanks to everyone that took a second to hit that thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and show us some love commenting after the fact. We appreciate it. And as always, guys, lineup generator, Sims tool, all that stuff, week, month, whatever you want. Links in the description. They've been crushing lately, and it's been really cool to see that. So,
yeah.
Vivid Picks, $300 first match deposit bonus, free square on Kelsey, and a $25 secured play. Plus, if you're in any of those 9 states I mentioned, Bet365, bet 5 in the 150. So we got you covered across the board. Have a great rest of the day. We'll catch you back here at Deeper Dive, live before lock for a 6-game slate tonight. Peace.